Hello and welcome to this new video format for the channel where I'm going to be doing these sort of more unscripted reviews where it's just a voiceover rather than me appearing on camera and doing skits and that kind of thing. The reason that I want to start doing this is basically because I want to get more reviews done and I want to talk about more modern games, but I feel like doing them in my current review format takes too long and I kind of want to get videos out more frequently. So think of these videos as being more informal mini reviews as opposed to my more structured and scripted main videos. So the game we're going to be talking about today is none other than Animal Crossing New Horizons, which recently came out on the Nintendo Switch and I've been playing it fairly often. I think I've actually played it every day since it came out. At this point, if you've got any interest in the game, you've most probably got it already. But I wanted to share my opinion of it anyway, just in case there is anybody out there who's sitting on the fence. So before going into this one, the entire thing was basically an unknown to me because I hadn't played an Animal Crossing game before this one. To be honest though, it's a pretty easy concept to get your head around, so I sort of already knew what I was getting myself into. It's basically a game where you create your own character called a villager, and then you move to a desert island and have to build it up from nothing. So you create your own house and other people's houses, you slowly get decorations and furniture to make it look better, and that sort of thing. It's basically a life simulator, but it's a very cute and easy to understand one that has tons of Nintendo charm. I would say the main thing that separates Animal Crossing from other games of this style is the weird gameplay loop it has. This basically incentivizes short bursts of play rather than long sessions, which is probably how you'll get the most enjoyment out of your experience here. Basically, the way the game is structured, it gives you a set list of objectives to complete every day, such as digging up fossils and giving them to the museum, gathering fruit to either grow more trees or to sell at the shop, getting materials from rocks, and gathering any other items you need, such as wood or shells. The shops which eventually get built in the game also rotate the stock every day, so you'll probably want to check that out too. On top of this core loop, there are certain objectives that don't repeat and that progress the overall story, or there are some events that are randomized as well. These random events can be things like having an animal wash up on your beach and you have to help them out, or you can get random encounters with other animals like CJ, who tasks you with completing a fishing challenge. With you never knowing what's going to happen from day to day with these randomized encounters, as well as the daily tasks you need to do to make the most of your time on the island, this is a game that really rewards patience and coming back to it day after day. The story events in the game are mostly set by Tom Nook, who wants the island to flourish and be as good as it can possibly be. To help him achieve this goal, you'll be inviting inhabitants to the island, making houses, setting up shops and other local amenities, and upgrading your own house while paying off your loan. I would say that probably one of the biggest divisive things about this game and its structure is how so much of it is reliant on the passing of real time. Certain bugs and fish which you need to capture to either sell or fill in the museum only come out at certain times of day. But beyond that, practically every major thing you do in the game will require you to wait a day or two to actually come to fruition. The museum, for example, takes 2 real-world days to be built, each individual house takes a day to be built, and then a further day for the new animal to move in. Upgrades for your house take a day to happen. Basically, any story progression requires a pretty substantial amount of waiting. Now you would think that this would be an awful design choice because it basically makes you want to stop playing after a certain amount of time. But I actually kinda think this works, because not only do you get more satisfaction when progress is made, but also, like I said earlier, this is a game that's much more enjoyable when it's played in short bursts. If there was no waiting involved in the game, it would be extremely short and you'd be able to get it all done within a day or two. So this time that you spend waiting actually somewhat works to the game's advantage. It also helps the game have this weird sense of community because you're aware that everybody else is also waiting for all the different events to happen. Like as the months go by, different fish and different bugs will come to the island and you know that everybody's in it together. It's kind of exciting, and this sense of community keeps you coming back to the game and keeps you talking about it too, so I imagine that Animal Crossing is going to be being talked about for a long time on social media because of all of these aspects. Making this slow progress towards building up your house and town and unlocking more items to help you traverse your island is very rewarding, but it's definitely not for everyone. If you're the sort of person who wants to get stuck into a game for hours and feel more instant gratification, or you want your skill to be tested in any way, this is definitely not for you. However, if you like the sound of being able to customize a town, house and character, and have a more casual, chilled out gaming experience with no sense of threat and requiring no knowledge of gaming, this is exactly the sort of thing for you. In terms of new stuff that Animal Crossing New Horizons brings to the table, I can't really talk about this too much because I've not played any of the other Animal Crossing games, but one of the big things this game does that separates it from the old ones is the element of crafting it has. The crafting is pretty basic compared to a lot of games, but at the same time it's still very enjoyable and gives you something else to be thinking about. You'll be able to craft tools to help you gather more materials and furniture for your house and town. And as you play the game more and more, you'll be rewarded with even more things to craft, which is one of the main ways you feel a sense of progression. Another way the game gives you a feeling of pretty much constant progression is with the Nook Miles system, which is something new that Animal Crossing New Horizons brings to the table. These Nook Miles are an in-game currency which are earned for filling in a huge list of objectives which consist of pretty much anything, from planting fruit, inviting people to your island, and catching bugs. This currency is more limited than the standard money you'll be getting, called bells, but they can be exchanged for certain clothes, decorations, and Nook Miles tickets which allow you to fly to a randomly generated island to get more materials to craft and sell. The Nook Miles basically act as achievements or trophies and give you a set list of things to focus on as you play, which is nice. From a technical standpoint, this game's about as high quality as you can get. The graphics are amazing and insanely cute, the sound design is as high quality as you would expect from Nintendo. I especially like the fake language that everybody speaks, it's just adorable. The controls are easy to understand and you get eased into them, so even if you don't normally play games, you'll get it. And the story isn't really a focus of the game and is very, very minimal, but what little development does happen is nice. To be honest, this game is a difficult thing to really show and talk about while making it look interesting. The game basically boils down to you doing a lot of busy work, but because of that Nintendo charm and character, it's still entertaining. I would imagine if you haven't played it for yourself, it looks kinda repetitive and boring, but once you become invested and get stuck in the gameplay loop, you'll be having a great time making progress in the game's many different areas, like getting new rooms for your house and slowly gathering the new decorations to properly utilise the rooms, making your overall town look more appealing, and getting new shops and buildings to visit and filling in your Critterpedia by catching bugs and fish. There's a lot of small ways that the game gives you a good sense of satisfaction, and one of the greatest things about the game is that it's all pretty much optional. You could focus on paying off your loan to upgrade your house, you could focus on catching the bugs and fish, you could focus on getting fossils to fill in the museum, or you could put all of your effort into helping out the inhabitants on the island and making their houses look better too. It's really up to you how quickly or slowly you want to take things in the game, and I think this freedom of choice really works to the game's advantage. While for the most part the game is pretty incredible, although admittedly not for everybody because of its slow pace, there are a couple of negative things I have to say about it, most of which could potentially be addressed in upcoming updates. One of the things that I would like to see implemented into the game is that I wish you could see item durability. The amount of times I've been using an item such as a shovel and taking it to an island only for it to break is insane, and it would be handy to have like a meter that goes down the more that you've used the item so you can see how long you've got left with it. That way you could plan ahead and make a new shovel if you're aware that you're going to be visiting somebody else's island. Quite a big problem, and potentially my biggest overall problem with the game, to be honest, is that I wish you could access the storage while you're in the crafting menu. The reason that this is so annoying is that when you want to craft something, you probably won't have the materials on you, so then you have to leave the crafting menu, go into your storage, get the crafting items out, then go back into the crafting menu, make the thing you want, and then put all of the materials back into storage. It would be so much easier if while you're in the crafting menu you could just access everything that was in your storage. It would save a lot of menu navigation and a lot of tedious busy work, to be honest, and would be an excellent quality of life improvement that I would make to the game. The load times are actually fairly long and extremely frequent, even having to load when entering a new room of your house, which I think is pretty insane. The game can't be that demanding, right? I mean, Breath of the Wild hardly has any loading unless you're fast travelling, and that's a massive open world. So why Animal Crossing has to load just going into a new room of a building, I have no idea. So yeah, if there's another thing that I would want to see fixed, it's these loading times, because although they're not too long, it's mainly just the amount of them that you have to endure that's the problem. The online friend system is also a little bit finicky, and you have to watch a load screen to have somebody actually join your island or to join somebody's island. So if you were wanting to invite multiple people to your island, that would be a lot of loading screens you would have to sit through to do that. I really do think that some kind of drop in and drop out multiplayer would have been really beneficial here. And to be honest, the whole online friend thing is a bit weird because you don't just have everybody that's on your Switch friend list automatically in your in-game friend list because they're two separate things. And the whole thing is a little bit of a mess and just feels a bit clunky. Another minor criticism I have of the game, but something that I would like to see implemented, is the ability to highlight multiple items that are in your pocket at the same time in order to mass store them away in your house. The way this works at the moment is that you have to go through each item one by one, storing them away one at a time, and it just feels like it could be sped up quite a lot. Another criticism that I have that's a similar sort of situation to this is crafting multiples of the same object is a bit stupid because you have to do it one at a time. The main thing where this is a problem is when you're crafting fishing bait, or something where you're going to be using more than one. When you're trying to catch some of the more rare fish, you're going to need a lot of fishing bait to make more fish spawn. But the problem with this is that crafting the bait, you literally have to go through the menu and do it one at a time. You can't just click make 20 fishing bait. And this is just extremely weird to me and actually seems like somewhat of an oversight. The amount of times that you have to watch the crafting animation if you want to bulk craft something like this is just insane. It basically just feels like there's quite a few elements in the game where it's just wasting your time, and with the game already having such an emphasis on time management and playing it every day, this seems a little bit counterintuitive. The game should be as user-friendly as possible to not waste your time, because the game is already quite a massive time sink. There is also the ongoing problem that a lot of people have pointed out with the game where the local multiplayer isn't as good as it could be. Basically the problem with this being that player 1 is in charge of the island and any other person who's playing with them can't really progress the story or do anything of any real worth. Whereas the way that it should have worked is that every player who's playing in local multiplayer had the same amount of responsibility. There's also the problem where you can only have one Animal Crossing island per Switch system, which is absolutely insane to be honest, and I have got no idea why they put that restriction in place. Even if you buy 2 Animal Crossing games, if you've only got one Switch, you can only ever have one island. So the only way that it would be theoretically possible for you to have 2 islands in Animal Crossing is if you had 2 Switch systems. Even making a new account on the Switch doesn't give you access to another island. It's pretty restrictive, and probably that's the most genuine issue that people have with the game. Luckily this doesn't really affect me because I don't play local multiplayer and me and my girlfriend have a Switch each. But this is a very, very genuine criticism of the game, and I do hope that this is sorted out at some point. And I mean, really, that's about all of the negative things that I've got to say about the game. Most of these things could be easily ironed out with updates, and they don't detract from the overall experience. Like I say, the only real major issue is the local multiplayer and the one island per Switch aspect. Putting all that aside though, it's a great game and would make for an awesome introduction to the greater world of gaming too. With it being so slow paced and teaching you the basics in such an easy to understand way before opening up a bit more, this would make for a great first video game. If you're a fan of games like The Sims and like the idea of a more casual experience where there's very little pressure, then this is one of the best games I've ever played in that style. However, if you're more the sort of person who wants to be tested and get really invested into a game in a single sitting, then maybe this isn't for you. What I will say is that Animal Crossing is basically the perfect side game, the sort of game that you would play while you're playing a bigger game that has more going on. Then you can just kind of play Animal Crossing when you want to relax in the evening or something. There obviously are people that play it for hours and hours every day, and I imagine you can get a lot of enjoyment out of it by playing it like that as well. But I kinda get the impression that that's not how you're supposed to experience it. Either way, I'm looking forward to improving my island and seeing the seasonal content they're going to be adding, which is yet another thing that's going to keep people coming back. And I would imagine for a lot of people, this is a must-own Switch game. For me, it's probably a sort of B-tier Switch game. It's not among the ranks of something like Splatoon 2 or Mario Kart 8, but it's still a very good game and definitely worth getting if you like the look of it. So before I go, let me know down in the comments what you think to this new format of videos that I'm doing. Should I carry on doing this for some new game releases? Or should I just stick to my more heavily scripted main reviews? Either way, if you enjoyed the video, give it a like and subscribe for more stuff like this coming soon, and I'll see you next time.